Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a quick and easy encouragement card. This is so easy to replicate. Anybody can do it. And this is a look at the card that we are going to make today. Now let's take a look at the products that we are going to use. So I've got some Distress Oxide inks in Picked Raspberry, Wilted Violet, and Blueprint Sketch. I have got the WPlus9 Tossed Florals stamp set, which I will stamp twice and then cut out my background using this Waffle Flower A2 layers die. I've got the Onward and Upward stamp set from WPlus9, and I love the sentiments on this set. I've also got my Misty here and some Bristol smooth paper. And I've got some other products on the side that we're going to use. And let's get into this. I am so sorry that my lights glare on my Misty. I need to figure that out. I have used some embossing anti-static powder on my cardstock, and I'm inking up my stamp with Versamark. And I will then use some white embossing powder from Hero Arts over that stamped image. And once I have that done, I will then turn this cardstock over and stamp this stamp set a second time so that it covers a full panel. You can line this up really easy. And in order to cover like a larger space, you need to stamp it twice. You can cover an A2 panel if you stamp this twice. So I'm just covering this with Hero Arts white embossing powder. It's really hard to see because it is white on white, but once we start doing the ink blending, you'll be able to see it better. So here I am just heat setting that panel. Again, really hard to see just because it is white embossing powder on a white background. Now let's start doing the oxide ink blending. I'm starting out with my Picked Raspberry on one end, and I'll work my way down to Blueprint Sketch on the other. Apologies, I lost a little bit of footage here. I film on my iPhone, nothing fancy at all. But somebody called me, my brother called me in the middle of filming, so I lost a little bit of footage, but that's okay. I'm not doing anything fancy, just standard ink blending, just moving back and forth over those different areas a couple times to get a smooth blend. So I've got my pink and my purple, and then I will move on to that Blueprint Sketch, just laying down a hearty amount of color. And then what I will do is, once I've got this the way I like it, I will move on to stamping my sentiment. So I've got one of these sentiments, and I'm going to stamp on Vellum. I am using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It is a black pigment ink, and so therefore I can do some embossing on this. Now, it's a little bit tricky because the Vellum is very slick, and so it's really, really touchy. And in the end, and you can see it on my finished cards. So this stamp set says this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. And the thes are in those banners. And in the end, it's really hard to see the after I stamp and emboss. But I think that the person can still read it and still figure it out, right? This is handmade. This is part of the charm of a handmade card, is that it's not 100% perfect, right? We are handmade, not Hallmark. In the end, I still loved this project so much, and it was just so simple and easy to do. I mean, basically making this entire card took me 15 minutes. It's really, really hard to beat. So I'm just laying on some clear embossing powder, also from Hero Arts, over this sentiment. And once I've got that good and coated, I will give it a quick heat set. My heat gun is still pretty hot from the last time that I used it. Because the Vellum is so thin, it does warp pretty easily. So you do need to make sure that your heat gun is good and hot before you bring it to your Vellum. And here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You kind of lose the thes, but again, that's fine. For me, it does not need to be perfect. Now I can die cut that panel, just trying to line that up the best that I can. And I will run this through my Gemini Junior die cut machine. I'm using purple tape to hold that die on. So long as your oxide ink is pretty dry, the purple tape will be able to stick to it. Purple tape, for some bizarre reason, does not like to stick to freshly ink blended oxide ink. I've learned that. So just going to run this through my die cut machine, and then here you can see that. And you can see how that is going to line up on top of my A2 sized card front. I love to leave a good margin. Now off screen, I've cut down my vellum, and we can start the final assembly. Like I said, this one's so quick and easy. So I've got the vellum. Now I'm going to place it just to the left side, but in order to make these flaps fold over easier, what I'm doing is just using my scoreboard to make scores basically right up against the panel that I've ink blended, so that the vellum just folds over perfectly and it's really crisp. This is my favorite trick to make sure that that vellum just folds over really smoothly and doesn't look like it's appearing super flappy, because I'm not going to have any glue on this vellum adhering it to my card except for what is on the back. So just reinforcing those scores. It does make your vellum just the tiniest bit white, but because it's up on the edges, I really don't mind, because it's going up against a white cardstock. So once I have those down, I am going to put some tape runner adhesive on to that vellum where it is going to adhere to the card. So on this top one, I realized I needed to put on the other side, and just putting that runner on the inside, and then I can adhere that vellum to my card panel. Just rubbing off those little adhesive dot roller that got on my mat. So just going to go ahead and line this up. I cut it straight, so it should end up straight. And because I've scored that on the scoreboard, I know that my scores are also straight. So just folding that down, and that will adhere my vellum to my cardstock. Now for a finishing touch, I used foam tape on the back of this panel, totally covered, to pop this up on my card front. And that is the card for today. Like I told you, super simple. This is one you could easily recreate with any number of background stamps that you have, any number of sentiments. This card will work for them all. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Like this video if you want to see more like this, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much.